And it's interesting, what we were about seeing our technology become pervasive because we were convinced it was a better way to run computers. We never thought, oh, we're going to build a multi-billion-dollar company. We just wanted to have impact. And it was, of course, incredibly exciting to build a big company and have that impact. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we brought it to market. It's very difficult to bring something to market that nobody knows what it is and doesn't think they need it. Everybody thought their computers were running just fine. So we had to find some kind of application that would be really useful. And at the time, people that did software development liked this new open system called Linux. But the world was all running Microsoft Windows, and so these people would do their work on Linux, and then they'd have to go to another machine to read their email or run their company's applications. So we said, I know, we'll do it at first for the desktop, and we'll make it so that you can run two virtual machines side by side on the same machine, where one can run Microsoft Outlook email, and the other can run Linux. And that'll be really useful to all the people that are doing development, and they'll give us good feedback because they're so technical. So that's how we launched the company. But we had these huge plans to make our software run every workload in the world on a computer, but we just introduced it in this small way, and we had 3 Linux companies try and buy us. They said, oh, you're a great tool for Linux. But we did not sell because we knew we had something much more valuable. We knew we wanted to build a server product. We went to introduce our server product. And this was into established data centers where people are very conservative. And we launched our server product, and the press didn't even write about it, let alone, customers buy it. It was just not an event. So we went back to the drawing board and we came up with some new ideas about how to introduce it. And we found some customers that were building, this is back in 2000 when people were just starting to build hosted computers in big data centers. We said they can run it there. This is exactly what Amazon EC2 is today, but we said they'll run our software. And we launched it again, and so nobody knew that we had already launched it because they hadn't paid attention. But it's just the message is, if you are really sure you have a good idea, be tenacious. Because if nobody can tell you what's wrong with your idea, you should keep going. If they can tell you what's wrong with it, maybe you better do something else, but otherwise keep going. But anyhow, so we got it out. We were very careful along the way to always bet on our future. So money was pretty tight, and there was another operating system from IBM on the desktop called OS2, and all the banks, particularly in Eastern Europe, were running OS2, and they were willing to pay us a lot of money to run OS2 in one of our virtual machines. But we didn't do it because we knew OS2 was going to die out, and that even though it was money, we wanted to focus on our future. And then I thought, so we thought the way to get into the server market was to partner with the hardware vendors. We thought, well, if you have a big server and you run our software, you can run more on that server and it'll be more useful to people. And it turned out IBM had originally invented virtualization in the 1960s. So it turned out an IBM fellow, their most senior technical person, looked at what we had and he came to see us. He didn't know, he actually came before we had a server product. He said, we're coming out with these big servers with the Intel architecture, the Intel chip, and there's no applications that are big enough to use them. But I think if you guys would build virtualization for the server, there would be. And we said, oh, well, let us show you. And we actually showed him our server product running. And so we got a partnership with IBM. We had been trying with Hewlett-Packard, we had been trying with Dell Computer, we had been trying with what was then Compaq, and people were kind of laughing at us. But IBM got it, and so we started something we called the Preferred Hardware Vendor Program, and when everybody saw IBM in it, we also got HP and Dell to join it. And we were going to go to market with all of IBM's sales force because it's very hard to sell when you're a tiny company. And so they would sell we got them to certify our software for these big Intel servers they were building. And we were all ready to launch, and their sales force was all trained, and we were going to go out and sell our product. And the IBM lawyers saw that we had a module that went with our software that was used to just start it up, and then we didn't use it again. And it was based on Linux. And Linux is this open source. It has a funny license. It's called the GNU public license. Anyhow, the license is a little ambiguous. It basically says if you run other software with it, it might be contaminated, and you might have to make all your software open to anybody. So when the IBM lawyers saw this, they said, we can't sell this because it might contaminate all our other software. And we're like, oh no, we really need to go to market with IBM. Well, we had this idea, what about if your partners sold us? They had a huge reseller network all over the world. And they said, okay. So they were the next month having their worldwide exclusive partner forum with all their most elite partners. And they let us come, and they let us train, and they let us give a keynote, and they launched us. And from then on, we grew over 100% a year in the entire 11 years I was at VMware. And it was because we were able to partner with all the hardware companies and go to market with their sales force. And the lesson is when you have a setback, there's usually, if you know what you want, there's a way around it. And it actually turned out to be better to go to market with their partners than it would have been to go to market with IBM because we had a little more control that way. So I'm going to sum up, and then I'm hoping I can answer some questions from you. But I just say it's really been a lot of fun for me building companies. I feel like it was my only choice because I would get so frustrated in the big companies. But it's fun because bringing new ideas to market and having impact is extremely rewarding. It's fun because when you build a company, you can say who works there, and you can say the culture, and you can just work with people you like, and you can just have rules. For instance, I had my second child 6 months after I started the company. And the other founders got married and had babies sort of 1 and 2 years into the company. And we had a culture where there were kids everywhere while we worked sometimes, and not always. But it just, we could do what we wanted, and we did, and it was all very successful. Every company has a different culture. But when you build your own, you can set it. And then finally, of course, there can be great financial rewards. But it's not a sure thing. But if you're doing something that you really believe in, and you're going to learn a lot, and you're doing it with people that you like, even if it doesn't work out, it's well worth it, because it's time well spent. So now I'll stop and see if there's any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Прежде всего, Diane, присядьте, у нас очень небольшой презент от организатора форума. Это для вас, да, за отличное выступление. И сразу же хотелось бы обратиться к Diane. You hear me? Я все-таки буду задавать вопрос по-русски. Вопрос будет состоять наполовину из присланного
с присланного нам половину, которая очень давно беспокоит. Вы сказали, что если с идеей все в порядке, ну вот никто ничего не сказал, можно продолжать. А если сказали, что что-то не так, вот тогда нужно подумать, а все ли нормально. Вот я вспоминаю историю, когда Брэнсону много раз говорили, да у тебя ничего не получится, бросай, но он шел вперед, и сейчас Virgin Atlantic прекрасно летает. И вторая часть, как продолжение этого вопроса, опять-таки напоминаю, вопросы можно присылать. Вот многие люди, когда выбирают свой путь, они думают, ну как-то здорово строить корпорации, да, строить компанию. Но ведь есть еще и корпоративные путь. И многие люди выбирают сначала пойти, особенно после университетской скамьи, где-то поработать. Вот этот путь приемлем, или вот нужно сразу же создавать свои компании, как вы считаете?
Okay, thank you for that question because I wasn't clearly, I need to explain better. We had a lot of people telling us what we were doing wouldn't work and it was crazy. Microsoft was the head of, we took our product to Microsoft before we launched it because we wanted to be partners with them, and they laughed at us and said, maybe someone would use it to debug a device driver. Maybe we would sell 50 copies if we were lucky. And people were, somebody else, I said, well, you can run server consolidation, you can run things on fewer machines, you don't need so many machines. And he said, oh, there's plenty of space, what does it matter, why not just have lots of machines? But as you can see, it was obvious to us that even though we respected these people, what they said wasn't a good objection, so we ignored them. What I meant when I said, if someone ever said something to me that showed me that my thinking was wrong, and I agreed, like something I hadn't thought of, then I would thank them and I would change and do something different. But many, many people who I respected and were far more important than I was told me that this was a stupid idea and it would never work. And for sure, we ignored them and kept going. I just am saying, you're the expert. Take all the criticism, because every now and then someone says something that's important for you to think about, but also be very good at ignoring them when it doesn't make sense. In terms of joining a big company or a small company, I think it really depends on the situation completely. I mean, I'm on 2 technology company boards, Google and Intuit. I think both of them are remarkable companies and have all kinds of innovations, and they're moving very aggressively. But it's also very fun to build your own company, and you can move even faster. So it depends. If you have an idea that you just can't wait to do, you should start a company. But if you don't know what you want to do and you don't have a friend with a really good idea that wants you to work with them, maybe it's better to get experience in a bigger company. And I do think it's possible to do innovation in both.